you know, and I heard this on the radio, one of the commentators, she said, food, water, and shelter, that's what's needed in Nepal now, you know, and they're trying to marshal all these aid groups and get money in there to reestablish the structures that'll support human life. But it's so difficult because it's almost like they don't see, normally, economics doesn't look in that direction, the basic needs of people, which they should be looking at all the time. Economics just functions as a thing in itself. It's for its own sake. It's not for benefit of people. So when you're trying to get money together, you know, for basic needs in a
Okay. Go to
Welcome to Blog Talk Radio. Please enter your host PIN. When finished, press the pound key. When you enter the matching PIN password file for your account, please re-enter your PIN. To start your show now, press 1. Since it appears you're calling back into a live show, we are reconnecting you now. Unless people have the information to do so. And right now we're locking down maybe 90% of our creativity because people are struggling just to stay in the routine of the job they've got. Or trying to find one somehow or some kind of income. So you've got a stressed population, and you know, some people who are, you know, despairing of their future. I mean, it's not hard to study the psychological effects on young people. So poverty and isolation, you know, they're trying to stay in a thinking somehow. They're different than all the rest of us, but they're not. It's just one situation that warns them and made it at a level of desperation now. Abuse occurs that had not been occurring over many years on the part of the police department, and whether or not they fear for their lives too, you know, it's just a subtle balance there. But at some point, the pressure cooker will explode. You know, that's an awful image, but you know, if you continue to try to just cover up what is missing in a environment like that, you know, the security of shelter, the security of food, and education, so that you can find a way to improve your life and raise a family. This isn't there. Right now, there are volunteers delivering meals to children because normal things. It's horrible things. You know, this is undignified for anyone, and also very demoralizing to the population. They want to, feel that they're able to provide for their families, but if they can't get work, they can't see how to.
Blog Talk Radio. Welcome to Blog Talk Radio. Please hold and you will be able to listen to the show.
Born into wealth. People who are born into wealth, they don't even realize the huge advantage they have. They just take it for granted. I mean, I'm not trying to demonize wealthy people, but, you know, there has to be some realization on that level, too. You know, people who are locked out of the possibility of ever owning any property or ever owning anything, and depending on the you know, whatever they can survive on from you know, government programs and the like, it's just crazy for them. And
Yeah.
Jeff, are you there?
I just want to interrupt the program for a minute. We are now on Hangouts, and if we're on Hangouts, then I think we can.
Yeah, that's congratulations, but let me just sum up so you guys can come in. I'm just saying that once again, basic needs. You know, here you've got a natural tragedy in Nepal. Basic needs need to be met. You've got a social tragedy, an economic tragedy happening, terrorism essentially, in Baltimore, and its basic needs are not being met. That is what economics should be for, but it's not. Economics is just functioning unto itself. There used to be an expression, art for art's sake, which meant that, you know, just make the art, you know, if it appeals to someone, that's good. If it doesn't, you know, it doesn't matter. It just has to be done. This is economics for economics' sake. It's a routine, a system that operates within its own parameters that has nothing to do with providing what people really need. So we have to cooperate with it in order to survive. It's a very debilitating, you know, from the moment you enter the workforce, you're making decisions that have to do with if this is what I'm going to do, going to make me enough money, or the amount of money that I think I need for whatever lifestyle I have in mind, or blah, blah, blah. You know, it's an artificial type decision that has, you know, if you want to go back to why renewable energy is not happening. It's a technology that is obviously, all these technologies that are involved, sun, wind, and biomass energies, renewable energies, are superior technologies to what we're using. We're using fossil fuels. I mean, these are just diggers. They just dig stuff up. They dig stuff out of the ground and they clean it up a little bit and they say, here, burn this. Burn this for your heat. Burn this for your cars. And we'll go dig some more. These are diggers. This is not fancy technology, no matter what they say. Oh, yeah, we can dig deep down into and go sideways, and we can go down into the ocean. Still digging. That's all it is. And they're making money like crazy, and they're polluting, and who knows, maybe the climate change is causing these earthquakes in the Himalayas now. I mean, you know, there could be a connection. They say that the fracking is causing earthquakes in parts of, I think it was Utah or whatever. I'm not sure of the state in the United States, but I think that was it. You guys can correct me. But I'm just suggesting that the direction is taking us away from the best choices, the best technologies. Economics is operating in a void. It's economics for economic's sake, and it's flying off into no man's land. I mean, like, literally no person's land, in my opinion. But I'm going to shut up for a while.
Okay, can you hear me all right on there?
I have a great opinion. Jeff, doesn't Susan have great opinion?
Well, yeah, and we all have great opinions. And a friend of ours said to us one day, he said, "We're all entitled to our own stupid opinions, but in some cases they're not stupid. They're unique, and people just don't see them." I want to have you know we're back here. I want to do some house cleaning, whatever they call it, housekeeping. The phone number here, if you want to call in, is 347-215-6731. We are now on Hangouts as well. There's on Blog Talk Radio. We have a chat room open called Bridge to Humanity. We do these programs Wednesdays, Sundays, Fridays. Wednesdays is we listening to this is called World Call In. You can call in. This program tonight is talking about Renew the Earth, which is basically
It's the morning. This is this morning.
This morning, Renew the Earth.
Tonight.
Oh, sorry. Renew the Earth. And on Sunday morning, we have Sunday on the Front Stoop, which is the longest stoop in the world. And we really want people's opinions out here on how we can help humanity. Our chat room on Blog Talk is Bridge to Humanity. You can join that as soon as possible. And you can call in here on Blog Talk or on Skype or on Hangouts. And I'm sorry I don't have the technology ability to give you all the technical stuff, but most of you people who are listening on this site knows more about how to run this technology than I do. The phone number here to call in if we're doing a live show is 347-215-6731. Okay, now we're to tell you that we're up and running again. I think we lost the first 15 minutes of the program because I couldn't figure out how to start the Hangouts, but we got that running now. Okay, enough with the negative stuff, and we can talk about some more terrible negative stuff, like physically people are dying all over the world because of economics, and of course natural disasters. And when there's a natural disaster, what do people need? So if I have a guy who's a billionaire in the middle of a natural disaster and there's no food or water or shelter, he can't use his money to buy that because there's nothing way he can spend that money, no matter how much he has. But we need physically, he needs some kind of shelter. He needs, or she needs, the human being needs a certain amount of food to eat and water to drink. And so they need shelter. And that can be measured, by the way, in energy units. And then they also require the education to know which food and shelter to have. Now, this is where renewable energy comes in, because if you don't have power, if the natural disasters or the man-made disasters take away your power, that means you'll have to walk somewhere because there's no fuel to maybe haul water in from maybe a half a mile away. Where if you had renewable energy or you had any energy, it enhances your labor. So what energy does is actually it enhances your labor, and that gives you more free time. So when you see a natural disaster, which we have no control over, that's Mother Nature or God or gifts of nature. Go ahead.
Let me clarify what you mean by enhancing your labor, because we're used to using that term, but some people this may be the first time they're hearing that, you know, what happens when you walk somewhere or when you have a vehicle to drive that same distance. That's what we call enhancement of your labor. The technology of the car makes you even more effective in covering distance than if you walked, you know, or ran the distance.
Yeah, the fact of the matter is, I'm going to get into the HREM later on, but I want to. Dennis told me not to get into this too early in the program, and I don't want to. I want to get into.
That's not the HREM, Jeff. Yeah.
The
that
HREM.
Was just telling people what we meant by enhancing labor.
Right. But I just want to get into the energy portion of this.
Right.
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
Years ago, let's start from the beginning. If we can go back, and I'm going to simplify the hell out of this because we had to look to see what really does energy do. Well, if you go back a few thousand years, as we used to be nomads and hunter-gatherers and all that stuff, we figured out that as a religion, we realized the sun gave us warmth. It gave us the ability to grow things. We realized that we needed rain. If we didn't have rain, we would die because it would dry up our crops. We needed fresh water. We needed rain. We needed good soil to plant things. And we became, and pretty much the religion became a sort of a pagan religion. I don't know if I can explain that, but people realized that they needed the natural resources that were physically here on the planet. And they realized most of it, all of our energy comes from a nuclear, so they didn't realize it was nuclear power, but they realized it came from the sun. And the sun is the best nuclear reactor we have, and we don't really need any more. Sun, if we can capture the sun's stuff, the sun's energy, we could supply enough energy, which we do, from the sun to give us wind, tides, food, shelter. It all comes from sun. Without the sun, this planet would not be here as we know it.
The most important thing from the sun is that it is the energy that plants use to do photosynthesis. If the plants weren't photosynthesizing, there'll be no food on this planet.
Right, but it all comes from the sun is what I'm trying to say. So solar energy or sun is the most important thing we have. And people, well before our conventional, or what do we call that? The conventional religions started. The religion started. Everybody realized, or most people alive realized.
But you mean once they become one God religion? Is that what you're talking about?
Well, what do we call mainstream religion? Let's call them mainstream religions. Before they started, people intuitively knew that sun was the answer to they needed to have sun. And then as we progressed, we used our mind, and by the way, we need 2 million calories of food and water a year from the sun, and we measured that recently, that we must have that much. Our grandpappy, our great-great-grandpappy, we all need 2 million calories of food and water a year. I mean, that's physical. You can't live without that, or much less than that. You're not going to eat too much more than that, or drink too much more than that. So then those are basic energy units. You can't live without them. Now you have something else. You have your mind, and your mind says, I want to live better, which is subjective. I want a more comfortable cave, or I want a more comfortable shed, or whatever you're building to live in. Or I want to be able to plant without bending over and digging, so they'll pick up a stick and make a tool, which we could do as a species. And then we can figure out another way to make it. We realized there was a wheel. Humanity sort of didn't invent anything. They realized there was such a wheel, and then we realized other things. And as a species, we kept on realizing different things. Now,
the wheel is the first, enhancement of human labor. One of the first.
I don't know that, but it could have been anything. It could have been the lever, the lever. It could have been a stick.
I know.
It could have been. There was many things, right? But we're using our mind, our primitive mind, to learn about new technology. And as we grew, our technology grew, and now we think we're really smart.
That it started to, and communication was very primitive at that time. There were only, the tribes were far from each other, and so it took a long time for important discoveries to spread far and wide, across Europe or across Africa, across Asia. It was all by word of mouth, and people were essentially riding horses or walking to get to each other.
But the point I'm making is that when we discovered that we realized we had whale oil, and that gave us light, and then it helped us heat, and then wood helped us heat, and then so we discovered oil. Not that long ago, maybe 300-400 years ago, we actually discovered oil, and then over the past 200 years or so, we've been using fossil fuel. And what you were talking about earlier, coal and fossil fuel, they're extractive industries, and the economic system fits in there very well because, go ahead.
They're the diggers. They dig up the stuff that's been compressed under the ground, the coal, the natural gas, the oil, and they bring it to the surface, and that burns. That's as simple as that. That's what they're doing.
But you have to put together a tremendous amount of natural resources to build those extractive industries. And for many, many years, we accepted that, and we were able to work within the economic system and the political system, especially in the United States, to bring these fossil fuels or these extractive industries into play. Now, what's happened is we've learned that it's costing us more and more and more of our, when I say money, it's our labor. It's costing us more and more of our intellect and our labor to get that out of the ground. And we are being, for whatever reasons, let's suppose
we're more and more dependent on it. We're totally dependent on it.
Because it enhances our time. It gives us, we only have 80 years of life, and if we spend 5 hours or 10 hours or 15 hours or 20 hours a day working to get our basic needs met, to plant food, make sure that we have to work within Mother Nature. If she doesn't supply water, we have to get the water from a different part of the area and haul the water over to keep the food going. That takes time. So we've learned in irrigation systems.
But the irony of this whole thing is that it enhanced our labor, so we could accomplish more in a shorter amount of time, but it did not give us more leisure.
Only because of the economic system. Now, here's where I want to go on to renewable energy. What's happened is the economic system, we asked ourselves maybe, 10 years ago, maybe 5 years ago, why isn't renewable energy growing in leaps and bounds? Well, solar energy is growing in leaps and bounds, and that's because the economic system is not driving it. It's actually stopping it. But because of the way it's working, is the big money is buying solar panels, and they're putting them on your roofs, and there's a tremendous push for this throughout government. And it's not a bad thing. I'm not saying it's a bad thing. That's the reason it's driving the renewable energy as far as solar goes. Big wind has also been driven for this, so we have more electrical power. And what's nice about it is we're taking the sun, which drives the wind farms, and we can capture the solar panels to make photovoltaics. But there's still, but it does another thing. It also grows stuff. The biggest problem we have in the world is not so much electrical generation any longer. The biggest problem we have is liquid transportation fuels to drive our transportation industry. And we're still using a tremendous amount of fossil fuel for that. Now, we could go for battery operated cars, and then you still got to build the batteries. And you can, and there's an environmental impact on that. I'm not saying it's bad, because I think the battery technology will grow better and be more environmentally sound. But what's stopping this from happening, again, is the guys who want to make money on money. If they just, there's a way of doing this without inflating the currencies. And every human being in the world should have the best possible technology for their automobile. And we should be able to trade that piece of technology in and get the next technology and rebuild what we had. We can also print up energy currency which we have printed up energy currency for a form of information. It says this, we throw it on the floor or drop it down to someone to look at, and they pick it up and it says disappointed, they're $20 bills. You wouldn't be if you use renewable energy. And that's a form of a currency.
Yeah, you wouldn't. You wouldn't be.
Right.
You wouldn't
if
be
you
use
renewable energy.
Right.
Now, what I'm trying to ask people to do is start thinking about how we could promote this concept of renewable energy. How do we make it happen? We have something in New York State called Solarize whatever the county is. The federal government has all kinds of programs out there to help put PVs, photovoltaics on your roof. If you happen to have a battery car like a Prius, you can plug the car into it. And of course, you're using the sun, but you still have to make the technology. We have to get comfortable with the better technologies. There are all kinds of solar. If you go on our website, I just believe it. We went past our break time. I'm going to try to take a little break and we're going to get back to this. The phone number here is 347-215-6731. You can also go onto Skype. I forgot what number that is, but you can go on Skype and look for Bridges Programming and look that up and then call us on Skype. You can go into Google Hangouts and we're on Bridges Programming. And you can go into our chat room and blog talk called Bridge to Humanity. We're going to take a little break now, and it's a little bit of a fun song by Alien Folklife, and it's called Hot Dog Heaven. So, and I'm sorry we missed the first half of this, but Susan, I'm going to ask you to repeat the first half of the program if you possibly can. Disappointed you wouldn't be if you used renewable energy. There's the 20s we put out, and here's what it looks like. I'm showing this on what we do. Anyway, here we go. This is Hot Dog Heaven. Stick with us.
I'm an ordinary new age guy with 3 kids and a wife, looking for the answers through the mysteries of life. I've regressed through 13 lifetimes to try and make amends, and on Wednesdays I go drumming with my new age friends. I know that life's a journey and everything must change. But something happened yesterday that left me feeling strange. I was going to buy some crystals at my favorite store downtown. When I turned the corner and looked up, this is what I found. My new age crystal bookstore is Hot Dog Heaven now, where once I searched for inner peace, the innards from a cow. They'll still make you one with everything, but it's not the same somehow. It's dogs instead of dogma, and Hot Dog Heaven now. My inner child was angry. To be frank, he was incensed. But my inner parent told him there are no accidents. Some cosmic force has caused the plans I made to be reversed and brought me to this hot dog stand, perhaps not for the worst. Before I gave up eating, I died by the dozen. But what if in a former life this hot dog was my cousin? Joseph Campbell said, where your list leads, you ought to follow. But this double-foot long chili dog is awful hard to swallow. My new age crystal bookstore is hot dog heaven now, where once I searched for inner peace, there's innards from a cow. They'll still make you want with everything, but it's not the same somehow. It's munching and not eating, and hot dog heaven now. Oh, please, got me thinking, and I know it's kind of hard, but if there's a hot dog heaven, could there be a hot dog God? Are the streets all paved with mustard in that holy hot dog land? Does Monster Meyer guide the gate with a wiener in each hand? And if there's a hot dog heaven, is there a tofu hell where carnivores run screaming when they hear the dinner bell? Some questions we can't answer, and perhaps we shouldn't try. But as the neon crank lights up the night, I sit and wonder why. My new age crystal bookstore is hot dog heaven now, where once we search for inner peace, there's innards from a cow. They'll still make you want with everything, but it's not the same somehow. It's kraut instead of crystals, and hot dog heaven now.
In recovery.
Onion rings, not earrings, trash cans and not ash cans, and hot dog heaven now.
Thank you very much. That was Joan Cosby and Paul Mercer with Alien Folk Life, Hot Dog Heaven Now. Permission to use it on our programming through Joan. And they also wrote the Energy Song, which you'll hear at the end of the program. Now, I've been showing Illyria's World, which is on a free download that was written by Susan Comont. And it's about the adventures of Sonny the Robot and Illyria. And that's a fiction, but it talks about climate change. And I think you can look on our website, and you can download it, or you can read it on our website. And the web.
It's on the, did you say which website it's on?
It's on the Renew the Earth website. And when Dennis, you asked for a program on Solarize the Earth. And when you said that, we called Renew the Earth. Now I want to go, we have before the next break, I want to tell you, do you realize how many different Renew the Earth websites there are? Why do we have all of a sudden I have a
I don't
echo?
have the exact number. Yeah, I hear that echo, but I don't know the number of Renew the Earth websites.
Okay, this is the website, Renew the Earth. I'm putting it on the screen now. And it's called Renew the Earth. It's renewtheearth.org if you want to look it up. Renewtheearth.org. And that's
And that's where the free download of the children's book is.
and
right?
Yes, renewtheearth.org if I can get this to show better.
Or you can just read it there on the website.
Okay, that's anyway. So
You wanted me to review what I said earlier,
yes, please do that.
and I'll just do it real quick. I'm just saying that I was comparing the two tragedies that are in the news right now: the earthquake in Nepal and the riot in Baltimore, and the lockdown of Baltimore, and the emergency lockdown that's happening there. There is a basic similarity between them. Everything comes down to basic needs being met. And in both situations, in Nepal, very poor area where this earthquake occurred, and the villages are depending mostly on agriculture, subsistence agriculture, that they can, meaning that, they have their own small gardens and holdings of a few animals, and, for their protein. And this is a poor area.
I mean, mostly what the people in developed nations hear about Nepal is about, you know, the Himalayas and people climbing the mountain there and, you know, testing their metal or whatever. I don't know why they do it, but people do it. And that is a very, very minor part of the economics in that area. There are a few people that act as Sherpas that help, you know, the very wealthy people who come there to try to climb the Himalayas and help them do it. You know, which I think is a completely bizarre situation there, but you know, that's what's going. But that does not provide sufficient influx of money from economics to make very much difference to the people there. They are basically living as small farmers, very small farmers, and supplying their own needs, and their homes are not built to withstand earthquakes. They're built, the newer ones from what I heard, they weren't even using reinforced concrete. So they, of course, have collapsed on people, and you know, thousands, as we've heard already, have died. This is an indicator of, you know, lack of modern resources getting to these areas, resources that are readily acknowledged, that is readily available. You know, reinforce the concrete. That's been going on forever. You know, where we live, why hasn't this kind of basic technology gotten to this area? You know, because economics will not allow it. It does not focus on human needs, basic human needs, and that's one of them, shelter. And the same thing is happening in Baltimore. Basic human needs are not being met.
And that's why but that's why we're racially profiling people, because those basic needs are not met. So the poor people in the world, which is not a minority, by the way. The poorest people in the world are not minorities; they are majorities, and they keep on stigmatizing. Right. They keep on stigmatizing. The main media keeps on stigmatizing the people in the world, the poor people, as being minorities. They are not minorities.
No, they're not. They're the majority.
They are the majority of the world population.
The small farming peasant type lifestyle that we would call, you know, a peasant type lifestyle is dominant in the world. If you look at the population of the world, that is the dominant way that people are living. They're living on small agricultural systems. They're usually just a family, maybe some collaborations if they have a natural resource like fishing or something like that, that they can parlay into a little bigger economic situation in their area, and it hasn't been hijacked by a larger group. But I'm trying to show, you know, I was talking about that we're living in a time of economic sake, and what I mean by that is the system is running in a vacuum of its own making, with its own rules and its own motives, which the motive is profit. And the few people on earth that can play this system and parlay it to the best advantage for themselves are always going to be a minority, because the system, one of the things that's very important to keep it going is there has to be scarcity. and lots of people going after too few jobs, too few goods, and of course the price can be higher and higher the more scarce something is, and the more it's perceived by the system that people want it or need it. It's not a it's here. Help me here, Jeff.
Well, I don't want to interrupt you, but I can the scarcities are not natural. We have enough natural resources in this world, is what Susan's trying to say. Well, if I'm going to help you, I can't talk. If you don't want me to talk over you, I can't help you. If you're asking me to help you and I try to talk.
All right, I'm sorry. That's trying to respond.
Yeah, but the natural resources is there's plenty of natural resources. And what Susan's trying to say is the problem of the natural resources, they're not being distributed properly. In other words, you're making money on money, and money does not put anything back into the system, even though economists say it does. Economists tell to you that, well, it doesn't matter. Money is the tool that drives everything. It is not the tool that drives everything. Human beings, human renewable energy, human beings are the tool that drives everything. And we get our energy from the sun. We don't get our energy from money. Money is a mechanical thing that is negative and damages our economy. Money is the thing that people are working their butts off for, but it does nothing to help humanity. The things that help humanity are the physical things that are happening, like manufacture. We take our mind, we put it into stuff, and we put that out there, and we help humanity with it. It becomes obsolete after a while. And we have another idea. Now, I want to get into some other things about the renewable energies. Dennis, if you can pop in here anytime you want.
Okay, you don't mind then if I interrupt you then, right, Jeff?
No, and I'll be quiet. I don't want to talk over everybody, so.
Good.
Now, the renewable energies that we're aware of right now, and they all understand something. They all come from the sun. And I'm going to say the first thing we're going to look at is wind. Everyone thinks of windmills. And that's actually the first thing we ever put up to pump water. We realized there was plenty of wind, and we knew how to drill wells, and we used to have a bucket. And we dropped the string down the bucket, and the wind blew, and then we made an old-fashioned pump. We used our minds to make a pump. We hooked up a windmill to a piece of pipe to a handle on a pump, and whenever the wind blew, the wind turned the pump handle, or pumped it up and down like a piston on an automobile, and then that put water into a trough, and we were able to easily take our water out of that trough. And that was but we use sun to make the sun makes the wind, and we use the wind power. And then, of course, the sun also creates rain and evaporation, and that fills up our lakes and streams and makes waterfalls. And then we said, wow, we can put a mill on the bottom of that water and make grist mills that make grains and felt and all kinds of things with this waterfall. So we had wind and water. And then someone drilled a hole in the ground, found oil, and we said, my God, this burns. So if we burn stuff, we could sort of get heat, and that'll make steam, and we had a steam engine. Then we had a combustion engine. And all these things were coming out of our minds. We put them into practice. Now, money had nothing to do with it. Money was the way we traded stuff, and money became just like gold. Instead of being a tool, it became a commodity. And to this day, the stock market is the biggest money-generating thing to make money. People in the stock market make more money, but they're putting nothing back into humanity. So we're back to where energy, the reason why energy is so important, not money. Energy is so important because it gives us our life is are about 80 years of age, and it gives us the ability to work less hours a day to give us more leisure. The object of labor is to gain leisure, so we can use our mind, enjoy life more before we croak. That's the concept of the labor gives you leisure, and the more.
It's not gaining leisure for the majority of people.
No, it's actually because of the economic system, because people.
The extra value of these technologies that enhance our labor is going back into the economics. The very few hands, the banks, the Fed, the money is not going. It's not being distributed. The value is not being distributed into the population, into the general population. It's being reabsorbed by the system itself and by the few people who are benefiting greatly from it.
And that's the problem we're having worldwide, and that's the problem we are having here in Baltimore, Maryland. That's the problem you have because of the economics, and the system is not. It's not being distributed in a way where basic needs are not met. And if basic needs were met for the amount of life we have, the 80 years of life, well, I'm going to get into that after the break. But so anyway, we have three forms of energy. We have wind, which again the sun creates, water, of course, and wind, sun, and biomass. And recently, in the last 25 years, we got involved with, we learned how to capture, and because of the space program, we needed energy which we couldn't haul fossil fuel up in the air. So we needed a way of getting electricity for lighting and transmission on these, and we designed, or our government, and our government didn't do it, individual peoples who were interested in science figured out photovoltaics. We can take the sun rays, convert them into electricity, and therefore we have solar panels, which take solar energy, which is nothing more than nuclear energy. That was the result of the studies that were made for the space program. Exactly. And now, and they were terribly expensive, thousands and if you go on our website, by the way, you're going to have this free book, which I've been holding up, and you're going to be able to look at some videos which you can, anything on that website, you feel free to download, use it. Please don't change it. Use it the way it's intended to be. But you'll see a video called The Infinite Power of Texas that talks about wind, sun, and biomass fuels. Dennis, it'd be great to see that if you get a chance. It's a very old video. Dan Rather's been dead for 10 years or 5 years now, and he actually made that video. Ken Lay was Enron Electric, who actually also died. He's in there and telling you how good solar panels are. So now solar panels have dropped down in price. And when I say it dropped down in price, I mean, it doesn't take all of your labor or taking out a huge loan to get solar panels on your roofs. And we can easily put solar panels all over the world for our electricity. And then there's something called biomass fuel, which right now people think of corn alcohol to make liquid transportation fuel. We're not proposing that. We're saying that the technology is there to take our garbage and to turn it into alcohol and use alcohol fuels using all kinds of different technology to do that, instead of using an extractive fuel. And the difference between a carbon, let's see, all fossil fuels, coal, oil, they're compressed particles, and that creates a carbon. So a carbon is a compressed molecule. It's a molecule. It's compressed. And when you ignite it and you burn it, you get a very high BTU out of it, but you're also releasing carbon into the atmosphere. What
originally, was degraded into the the ground was the vegetation from, millions and millions of years ago, and then was it's a vegetable matter that turned to soil, and then deeper and deeper it went into the earth as millions of years went by, and more pressure, and these areas, the pressure and the time finally, made coal, and the gases that we use of natural gas are trapped under there, and the oil.
So we figured out in our mind, we figured out,
and they bring it to the surface.
right, and we call them extractive industries. And by the way, they were very important to help us grow our humane system, where we can supply food and all technologies from that, and that's a good thing. But we've learned that when you ignite those carbons, it puts in tremendous amount of carbon into the atmosphere, and CO2 rather into the atmosphere, and that's we have a problem. We think, or scientists think, and I'm open, and I don't think the jury's out on that. I think that most of the people who study it, and I have to give some credit for that. I don't give credit to all education, but I give credit to people who believe in what they're doing and spend time doing it. They say there's a problem with the atmosphere, and I concur with that. And but I don't concur. I got to finish this, please. The reason I'm saying that is because we can do anything with a difference between a carbon and a carbohydrate. Is a carbohydrate like a piece of wood? If you ignite the wood, you're going to produce a certain amount of carbon in the atmosphere, but nowhere near, it's because it's a carbohydrate, as you're going to do if you put compressed carbon into the atmosphere. So if you burn alcohol, it's a carbohydrate. It's not going to hurt. It's not going to do as much damage at all into the system as you would if you do carbons. And we need the energy to enhance our labor, and that's why energy is so valuable. But energy the currency has nothing to do with the energy. Sue, hold your thought a minute, because I want to take a little break, about a 5-minute break here, and get on track, because I screwed up the tracking a little bit when we were late on the Hangouts. But here we go. I'm going to play "We the People" by the Foothills Trio, and here's where we all have to come together. And this is sort of a patriotic song, but it's not patriotic just for the U.S. It's patriotic for the whole world. We need the whole world to come together and make sure they have all basic needs met for a minimal amount of their lifetime. Here we go.
We the people, hand in hand. We the people understand that there's an answer, there's a way. We the people have to say, success in the order to prepare, that we the people do declare that the good news and the word, we the people will be heard. We the people everywhere. There's a message in the air, and it's moving across the land. And if you listen, you can hear it well, my friend. We know the time has come to take our heads out of the sand. Cause if we don't, the chance might never come again. The future is a reason, not building the way to war. And the time has come for reason to be heard. The purpose of the people, what this declaration for. It's why our fathers told us, word for word, let it be heard. We the people, hand in hand. we the people understand that there's an answer, there's a way. We the people have to say, so send the orders to prepare. That we the people do declare.
Yeah, 2 minutes.
And the word, we the people will be heard. We the people everywhere.
I don't know whether I'm coming through in this or I'm not, but we'll find out when I listen to it on the.
Of those who lead our nations into hell. It's time to call the bluff and say to them,
Enough's enough.
it's time we all should hear the tolling of the bell. And it's time to feed the hungry, and it's time to heal the
No,
pain,
he called.
and it's time to beat our weapons into clouds. It's time to hear the voices that have arisen once again. It's the voice of the people, clear and loud, singing proud. We the people, hand in hand. We the people understand that there's an answer, there's a way. We the people have to say, so send the orders to prepare. That we the people do declare. Then the good news and the word, we the people will be heard. We the people everywhere. We the people, hand in hand. We the people understand that there's an answer, there's a way. We the people have to say, so send the orders to prepare. That we the people do declare. And the good news from the word, we the people will be heard. We the people, we the people, we
the people.
The people everywhere.
And we are back. This is Jeff Beller, Susan Comott, and Dennis Carius. We're here with you on Wednesday World Call In. Please, if you want to call in, the phone number here is 347-215-6731. We have a chat room open on Bridge to Humanity on Blog Talk. We're on Hangouts right now. You can look at my funny face if you want. Call us on Hangouts or through Hangouts, also on Skype, All Bridges Programming. So this is a good thing. It'll be if you have any tidbits of information that may be worthwhile, please don't hesitate to go on Bridges Programming website, take the videos off and quote us or do whatever you'd like to do with that. This is up here, O'Leary's World. It's a free download. It talks about climate change and it talks about economy, and it's a really great children's book, and I guess it's good for adults too. We also have a video on that from Texas Renewable Energy, Texas Renewable Energy. I don't know. You'll see it. The Infinite Power of Texas, and they were really good to work with. And that was made back when George Bush was the governor, before he was president of this country, and he was the governor of that state. And I don't think he realized how good a tape that was being made of all the different renewable energies there were. Dan Rather, who's long past, hosted that program, and Ken Lay, another famous person who was the president of Enron, or the CEO of Enron, also is on that tape, and it talks about how good solar energy really is. There's also interviews from ACOR, American Council on Renewable Energy, the latest conference they had, we interviewed a lot of the people, the engineers who were there selling their wares at that, and they're also on that website. Plus, there's a children's, Susan's been working on a children's newsletter, a monthly newsletter, which gives you projects to do in school or at home to show kids about nature. And
That's under the blog button on renewtheearth.org. It's under the blog button. You push that and you'll get a choice to go to what are called Earthling letters. And if you go there, there are now posted 3. Another one will be posted soon. I'm still writing it and illustrating it. It's about photosynthesis, and that's a lot more of a challenge than I thought to get that across in an Earthling letter. But I'm doing my best. Once I'm going to go back to you, Jeff. I'd like to though introduce a scenario after you complete your thoughts there.
Go ahead. I have more thoughts than I know what to do with. So go ahead.
Oh, okay. Well, I was just thinking, when we were talking about, the natural catastrophe in Nepal and the economic catastrophe in Baltimore, I was just wondering if there had been a 7.5 earthquake under Washington, D.C., how would it have been different than what happened in Nepal? What would have been the differences? What would have been the similarities? And I think there would be a lot more similarities than differences in the result there, because, I mean, once again, basic needs are not being met around Washington, D.C. There are huge populations who are struggling, just beyond the mall, just beyond the White House, just beyond the Capitol building. There is huge economic stress around the very center of our government, around our government, the location of our government. If there had been an earthquake under that area, there would have been many thousands of people would have died. There would have been a huge catastrophe in terms of getting help and aid, and we are not even in the seat of our government in Washington set up to deal with any kind of real catastrophe. There isn't no evacuation plan that's going to help.
I want to interject something. There are certain things that nature throws at us, like earthquakes. Now, we may be semi-responsible for that if we're taking stuff out of the ground, or we may be. But either way, it's a natural disaster, and if we're damaging it, Mother Nature, or God, if you want to, has a tendency of saying, if you destroy my planet and you kill one another, these are the things I'm throwing at you. Now, that's one thing. But then there's another problem. Instead of building renewable energy structures that help humanity, so we don't have to poison the water or extract the ground, poison the air to kill I want to get to a point. I want to get to a point, please. The point I'm trying to make is that if we build weaponry and build poisons and build things that hurt the atmosphere, we are physically making those bombs. We are physically making the guns. We are physically extracting things that are damaging the planet. We're putting poison into the atmosphere, the water, and the land. We are physically doing that. It's not happening by itself. It's not a natural occurrence in nature. So we need to stop thinking about how do we work within the measurements of nature or within the structure of nature. So we don't do it. But the difference between a natural disaster, which we call a natural disaster, or a man-made disaster, it's pretty obvious that if we're dropping drones on people because we need to control the economy, is why only reason we're dropping drones on them. They just lie about, mainstream media lies about the reasons for it. We blame it on religion and we blame it on other things. Then the reality here is that Mother Nature is going to stop it. And she's not going to, or God's not going to allow us to continue on the way we're doing it. And we have to use our brains to say, we got to stop this kind of insanity. We have to stop fracking the ground when we can get stuff out of the solar or get stuff out of biomass fuels or get stuff out of wind and water. We can do this. The technology is there. The trouble is we can't make as much money with it. So the few guys who are trying to make money on money are damaging the planet. It's a very, very small part of the world population doing that. And we can't allow that to happen. And we have to figure out a way to there's a difference, what I'm trying to say is there's a difference between a man-made disaster and a natural disaster through nature. That's all I'm trying to get out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I hear what you're saying. You know, when we have a natural disaster or an economic disaster that has finally come to a head, as it has in Baltimore, everything is stripped down to, you know, what really matters: food, shelter, and the education to know, you know, where to go to get them, and you know, or how to get there. And those are the basic needs. And if the infrastructure isn't there, I mean, if that had been the emphasis of economics worldwide, there would have been an infrastructure around Nepal that would have been possible to bring aid, and there would have been reinforcing bars in the concrete so the buildings didn't fall on people. There would have been a much different kind of dynamic there, where people were not marginalized because, you know, they're somehow not able to contribute to the profit motive bottom line of present day economics. Economics for economics' sake, that is what we're living in. We're not living in an economical or a humane economic system. I have to go back to, you know, what might have been if that earthquake had occurred under Washington, D.C. Yeah, we have
or New York or California.
There.
And it's by the way, this is very likely to happen to California. And what's going to be the difference?
Well,
if California has a major earthquake, a 7 or 8 on the Richter, we're going to have and by the way, you see how the measurements come in. I just said the Richter scale as a measurement, like a 2-point in California is nothing,
Yeah,
but an 8-point would be serious. And also, when you talk about there was what 5,000 people killed at that earthquake, but because of man-made disasters, 20 years ago we lost 6 million people in Africa, and they blamed it on a religious fight, but it was about economics. That was 6 million people, and because it's Africa, we've diminished we've marginalized those people and said, well, those people are poor, they don't know any better. That's outrageous. They're no different than you or I. They're just in a different part of the world that the economic system has been brutal to that part of the world. We've taken slaves out of that part of the world. We've taken their natural resources out of that part of the world. We kill people every day out of that part of the world, thousands of people a day, but nobody wants to face up to that fact. Nobody wants to face up to the fact that we're killing the people in the Western world are killing people every single day of the week because of their economic structure. And if we faced up to that, everybody would have a piece of renewable energy. Everybody wouldn't have to be slaves to the system. Everybody would have their education, all education met. My God, man, wait, what are we doing? Why are we doing the things we're doing that is better, that is devastating humanity and the planet? And if you keep doing this, if you think you're going to have enough money made and saved for your children, you are mistaken. The planet is not going to allow this to continue. Humanity, we have to stop killing fellow human beings, and we have to stop poisoning this planet. And the only way I could see doing that is getting out renewable energy around the world to make sure people's needs are met, and the renewable energy will allow people to work less hours to have a better quality of life. You will then stop the wars. And that's where I'm going to put a plug in. Dennis, can I talk about the HRM now?
Oh, sure, Jeff. And let me just mention one thing real quick. I'm reading it right here. It says Big Oil says we'll have solar when they can put a meter on the sun. That's interesting.
Well, John Paul Getty, I think, said that, or maybe it was that was a very famous. He said that it was either Westinghouse or John. One of the big guys said that. How am I? If you have a solar panel, you have free energy. How can we make money on it? That was the problem, and it's still the problem. And that's why you don't see renewable energy happening. It's not about because the technology is not available. It's not about. It's about we're not comfortable with the technology.
It's not because the technology, they don't make a choice for the best technology. They make a choice for the technology that can be maneuvered and handled so that it makes the most money. And that has nothing to do with basic needs met. It has nothing to do with humanity benefiting from extra value of all the technologies that we've been contributing to for thousands and thousands of years with our minds and our labor.
And that of course, because of those thousands of years of brainwashing, we had that gold is so important and silver is so important. And then we got off the gold standard and we got off the silver standard because they became commodities, not exchange of goods and services.
Now money is the most important
right.
thing. Fiat currency.
Right.
And that is a commodity now.
It's a commodity. We buy and sell the commodity, and it fluctuates in price. And when I say price, it fluctuates in how many hours you're willing to work for something that gives you absolutely nothing back. It's just that people believe in it, just like they believed in gold or silver or feathers or rocks back then, and you can trade with it. But the reality is it became a commodity. How do you make money without working for it? And the reality is in the HRM world, which is based on science, it's based on not subjective things, objective things. The economy is screwed over because it only works on subjective things, and it's been that way for thousands of years. The king says to you, I'm only going to pay you for your 16 hours of your labor. I'm going to give you your basic food and shelter to stay alive. If you don't work for me, I'm going to kill you. That's been going on since the beginning of civilization. But now there's so much technology out there, you could probably get all your basic food and shelter, according to people we deal with, for about an hour of your labor a day, with your mind and your intellect a day. Your intellect and your labor a day. You would have your basic needs met. Some people just don't work at all. They just they sit in their throne, or they're in the ivory tower, let's call it, and they're one of the beach houses, or when they have 20 people working for them, and they have all these, just like kings. But meanwhile, the poor guy comes over here from a poor country, and we've got these guys working 16 hours just to get their basic needs met, and then they want to help their family, so they send some extra money back, and then the family work. So the money is the thing they're working for, but the money doesn't put anything back into the system. It's supposed to be a tool, but the tool's manipulated. Now, I'm not saying you shouldn't use money, but the money has to be based on something that is physical, not subjective. It must be an objective number. So all the people we talk to, and we have a lot of people on our programming who talk about the economy, and they yell at me and they argue with me, and they have valid points. Their belief system is very simple. Money runs the world, and money is the tool to make the system work. And they figured out all kinds of schemes and gimmicks to make it work fairly. They use the word, and they want to make it fair. The problem is you can't make money fair if it's based on a subjective thought. But if you base it on an energy unit, which is what we're trying to do, energy from the sun, in some form of an energy unit, be it Buckminster Fuller, which I found out recently, talked about kilowatt hours, to base human energy on kilowatt hours. And he was right on target. But go ahead.
Yeah, but it has to represent human needs. That's what it has to.
But
You have to make that correlation.
right, energy.
Because it is human labor in the form of intellect or physical labor, where everything starts, where economics starts, its engine starts.
But what I'm trying to say is that if we base it on the basic human needs that you're talking about, we all need a certain amount of food in energy units, a certain amount of water in energy units, and shelter in energy units. And we all only live about 80 years of age. So we take the energy units and the 80 years of age, and we say that's a measure, just like speed is measured, miles per hour is measured in time that we agree upon, and distance that we agree upon. We took those two measurements and we came with another measurement called miles per hour. And the things we're talking about, what basic needs met, they're pretty obvious. Everybody knows you need food, shelter, and education, and you're only going to live 80 years of age. We all know that. That's nothing new. I mean, it's one of the people we spoke to at college said, "Oh, you're not telling us nothing new." No, but we're saying that has to be a measurement, just like we lived for years with gravity, and then all of a sudden, just 400 years ago, Newton said we need to name it and call it something so we can measure it. And then we had velocity, impact, all kinds of Newton laws on that. But the reality is we live with it forever, for up to 400 years ago. I'm suggesting we put a new measurement in, and we call it the HREM, Human Renewable Energy Measure.org. HREM.org. Please look that up and pass it on if you understand what we're talking about. No human being in the planet should have to work for more than an hour a day. That's 5% of their working day life, maybe 10, which would be 2 hours, for their working day life to get their basic needs met. However, you're probably going to be working more than that because you want more than that. So there's a need, which is objective, and a want, which is subjective. And the economic system has to be changed to allow the objective thing to take effect first, to be fair, and then the subjective portion. And that's and you must, and if your premise is going to be to change the way we do business, you must put the measurement in position to be objective to start with, and then let the subjective part come in later. I've explained this to probably thousands of people, and very few of them can grasp it. And the reason why they can't grasp it is because they've been brainwashed by the society for the past thousands of years to say that can't happen. Richard Wolff, an economist, a great guy, wants to be fair. He said, "Oh, we got to change this and change that." But if you don't have a number to where to start from, to measure how much taxes should I pay, it would be arbitrary. You'd say as much as it takes. Well, how much does it take? Give me a number. They can't do that. We have another group that we work with, and it's a great group called the Center for Economic and Social Justice. They're a great group. The fellow we're talking with, I'm going to try to get him on the program again.
Norman Curlin.
Norman Curlin, he's great. And he quotes someone named Kelso. And I just spent 2 days deciphering his email, trying to figure out exactly where he's coming from, because I may have missed something. And where he's coming from, he's built a very, very substantial way of doing business. And he's right on. It would work fine. It would actually give us a fair quality of life. But the problem is he doesn't have a base number to start from. And without a base number to start from, it's just subjective. We need an objective measure to start from. And that's where we're coming from. And that's all about renewable energy. So we need to get to understand that we are, in fact, renewable energy. We, in fact, can be measured. And there was another cute story. Part of listening to one of Norm's colleagues the other day, he said, well, cows were traded very much, but every cow is different. And when he said that, it reminded me of another professor we spoke with, and he was talking about mules. And the student said, every mule is different. And then when the professor said, but you heard of horsepower and every horse is different. And the kid said, well, that's different because we can measure horsepower. Well, you can measure human power too, just like anything else. Horsepower is, every horse is different, but we standardize the measurement for horsepower. And then you can subjectively say, I don't need big horsepower because I can run efficiently with less horsepower with a more efficient something or other. And human beings are the same thing. You have to go by a measurement first, like horsepower, or like gravity, or like observations in physical worlds. That's where we're coming from. But hey, Dennis, do you have anything you want to interject here?
Well, yes, that's a good question, Jeff. Did you ever hear of something called a break? We only have about a half hour left to go, and we usually take a break every half hour.
Well, that's what you want to interject, the break? Well, after the break, I want to bring out another thing that we have a very dysfunctional something, and you're going to call it a dysfunctional government. But I don't think we have a dysfunctional government. I think we have a very functional government, but a very dysfunctional worldwide economic system. And that's creating our wars, that's creating our earthquakes, that's creating our riots around the world. That's what I see is a dysfunctional economic system. Do you agree with that?
Well, see, no, you and I disagree because I'm in the 99.9% of us. You must be the upper 1/10 of 1%, the richest, most powerful people who think this government is functional.
Oh no, I'm not. It's not functioning for me. It's functioning for the very wealthy. But the way they're driving it, but the way these people, the way the 1% is driving the world governments, not just this government, they're driving the world governments is through the economic system. And the economic system itself is dysfunctional. We'll be back right after this little break. And this is with Kim Wallach, and it means we all eat French fries. We all got together, figure out it, like Dennis has his way of figuring it out. She has her own way of figuring it out. Susan, Kirkland, and all these different groups have their own way. But we have to come together somehow. So let's hear Kim Wallach. 2 minutes, we'll be back.
This old world has trouble. Everyone knows there's garbage in all of our lives. We try to get through it each our own way. And for me, I just eat French fries. Some may take vitamins A, B, and C. Tofu, granola, brown rice. They all give me wheat germs and brewer's yeast, and I put it on my French fries. Some watch the stars, have their charts done, and read all about every sign. I wonder if Saurians every full moon dig out like me on French fries. Some got religion, devotion, and guilt. Charity and grace are divine. I hear things are hotter than ever in hell, but in heaven, do they have French fries? Some say the army, bombs and the guns will one day save all of our lives. I don't believe it, Heat up your pans, make peas and lots of French fries. This old world has trouble, everyone knows. There's garbage in all of our lives. We try to get through it, each our own way. And for me, I just eat French fries.
Well, welcome back to Bridges Programming. This is Sunday World Call-In. We love to get call-ins. We've got a lot of people in our chat room. Well, if you'd like to, we only have a half hour of the program. Bridges Programming is a humanitarian radio online station. We're now doing video as well as audio. If you are interested, please don't hesitate to get to our website and contact us. We also like to give people their own programming, and we're looking for about 10 more programmers to do this to start with. And we're doing about a lot of hits a month now. So we'd like to get you out there and talk about humanitarian issues. Energy is the big deal we talk about, renewable energy and the human renewable energy measure. But you can talk about anything you want as long as it's not negative and it doesn't hurt anybody. We want to be positive. We want to bring people together. That's the goal of our programming. So we have about 25 minutes left. If you guys want to call in, you're welcome. I'm going to give Dennis, Susan and Dennis, I'm going to let you guys get your words in because I've been talking too much.
I'm going to just try to clarify a little bit of what you were saying before the break. We're not asserting that the government, our government, is not dysfunctional, but we're going to the source of why it operates in a dysfunctional manner. And we feel that the economic system is forming government to support its needs, which are essentially profit, and where can it be gotten, what can be turned into profit. And these kind of motives that are the main thrust of the economic system in the developed countries now, and going into the more agrarian and farming cultures too, just to take up natural resources and displace people. This is what is creating the dysfunctional operation of government. It can buy politicians. It costs $1 billion to run for president in this country now. And I heard that today that Bernie Sanders is going to announce he's going to try to become the nominee for the Democratic Party to run for president. So, good luck with that. Clearly, he feels he has sufficient funds. So does Hillary Clinton. I don't know all the contestants and the Republicans. Maybe you guys could fill me in on that. I'm not following it that closely yet because it seems a little premature. There's still a lot of time before our President Obama is going to be finished with his term of office. And a lot can happen between now and then that needs to be paid attention to, not who's running for president. That seems very artificial because, and also knowing that it's run by who has $1 billion to run in the race. This is economics. This is economics. Buying the presidency, buying it. That's not the way to get good people into office. So you've got a larger pressure on governments worldwide, and it is an economic pressure.
I want to interject something. If it's going to cost $1 billion to run for office, and the poor people can hardly make ends meet now, they can't contribute too much to the campaign. Even with the numbers we have, the 6 billion people on the planet, if you break it down, divide it like we have in counties and states, when you talked about if you go outside of Albany, just outside the doors, like in Baltimore, 30 minutes away, or you go just around the corner from the White House, you see absolute poverty. Well, Dennis will tell you that if we go to parts of Albany, right around the corner from the Capitol in Albany, isn't there poverty in that part of the world too, Dennis? And just around the corner from where we live?
Have you ever heard in Albany, New York? Have you heard of Arbor Hill?
Yeah, that's another area that is mainly black and poor, and they're still pushed. It's a nice part of the world. I've lived there as far as they're nice homes there. But they push people, they push groups into ghettos, and then they're stigmatized, and then you've got a problem. And this is what happens in parts of Baltimore. Even if you have a black mayor and a black, it's stigmatized because of the economics. But if all people had their basic needs met, there'd be no people stigmatized, and that's where the HRM comes in. The difference is that we have to come to a way of measuring things so we don't have. Look, we all have our own points of view. You may like a Prius, I may like a Hummer, or one of these big Hummers. You may like solar energy, I may like wind generators. We can basically come to some thought that which is the most efficient thing we can do. Well, humanity has to come to an efficient way of dealing with itself. We are now using economics, which is not economical. We need an economical way to help humanity that doesn't poison the planet. That doesn't, because in the long run, that's not economical. If we have to throw out a computer every 2 years because it's obsolete, that's pretty stupid. We should be all, and this is what Jacques Fresco, as a matter of fact, you can look this up. Go ahead. I'm sorry, Sue, go ahead.
You should be able to upgrade these things. I mean, if something has been improved on, you just get a little chip and have it inserted in your computer or your phone or whatever. That's what I mean by, forcing people to buy what they really don't need, and then not providing people with what they really need. This is the nature of our economics today. It's interesting. I was remembering the old story in the Bible, about the golden cow and how the community was getting more and more fascinated and mesmerized by this golden statue of a cow and worshiping it, and how it's kind of similar to what's happening with our economics now. We worship money. The golden cow is now fiat currency. We're asked to think that that's the center of all value, that of all life, and it's a wrong path, as it was suggested in the Bible. And God came down and punished all the people worshiping the cow, and said, "Wait a minute, you're not supposed to worship the cow. You're supposed to worship me." Well, I would assert that today, we shouldn't be, mesmerized by our currency. We should be looking to see what is really happening around us in nature. What are the systems that are more powerful than anything that we're doing as humans? We can learn from the way that nature has solved things, which is how the solar panels were conceived. The scientists had studied, the gathering, the energy gathering properties of leaves, and the way that sun energy could be gathered. by the panels that they design, by the little components within the panels, and then put through circuits to a point where then you get it to an inverter so that you can use it in your home. I mean,
Well,
these are things
hold on.
that
I want to interrupt you because what's happening is,
wind generators,
but money
the wings that are rotating.
did not.
And that comes, from our observations of what happens in nature. So, birds can fly and what shape, work.
Well, okay, but Susan,
make motion
Susan,
for-
I want to interject something that money is
Certainly.
the money. Are you? Can I interject something here? Are you there? Can you hear me?
Yes,
Okay, I want to interject something that money is the way of trade, and it's not really trade. It's a way of it's an IOU. Go ahead.
credit.
Right, it's a credit. And if you think about this, I want you to just, in your own daily life, we always say that everybody has different values. And I want you to think about this for a minute. In the course of a day, the first thing you do when you get up is you look in the mirror and you theoretically, have to do your teeth and whatever and wash your hands. And well, if you didn't have a sewer out there, you couldn't run the water. If you didn't have someone who worked on the pumps to get that water to you, you couldn't do that. You needed someone to run the electric to get the wires to you. If you deal with internet, you'll need to have someone running the internet system to get to you. Then you may be old like me and you may have to go see a doctor. Or you may need to have some trees trimmed up, or you may need to have your grass cut. Everything we talked about, money runs it, but the value of the individual who gets you the garbage out, who fixes the roof or who cuts the trees, we have some kind of a subjective value on that. But the reality is we need every one of those people, and not one person is worth that much more than the other, only in the economic system. And it's based on the physical needs of an individual. And we are forgetting about that we're using a human being in every aspect of this of our life. We need to have people who help within the society to do the things we need physically. And the money is in the way. Money is nothing more than a fair means of trading, but you can't have a fair. Why should a doctor who spends some time in school, I'm not saying he's not smart, he's academically smart, but there's a mechanic who's just as academically smart as that doctor, who'd be a great diagnostician, who couldn't afford to go to school. He might even be a much, much better doctor than the doctor we're using, but he can't go to school because the school costs money. And it stopped the guy who'd be maybe a genius if he had the education to pick up the years of millions of years of human labor and intellect combined into some documents that he would be able to learn. But he can't get into school because he doesn't have the money to get there. The reason why people are starving around the world is not because of lack of food, it's lack of money to get them there. And you can show, and when you have a catastrophe, a natural catastrophe or a man-made catastrophe, it's not because of lack of money, it's because of lack of the things in that area to get it there. If it's a natural disaster, even the money doesn't help to get there. So we need to set up our world to make sure that all people, no matter what, have their basic needs met in any situation. And we should not be creating artificial situations that make scarcity. And that's what the economic system does. It makes artificial situations that create scarcity. Dennis, do you agree on that or not?
Oh, no, I definitely agree. And I think our country has actually started going in that direction. Even if the parents are unemployed, the children can still go to grade school and to high school for free in this country. But what's really sad is when that child is 18 years old and it's time to go from high school to college, and the child really wants to go to college. They know, what major they want to go in, what degree they want to get, but they're 18, and now the price of going to college is so high. Do you know why we don't even have to ask where are our troops coming from? Over in Iraq or Afghanistan, we send all these troops over there, and we never even say, well, who's volunteering to do this? That's because when a child is 18 years old and it's time to go from free high school over to that real expensive college, they were told for years, you can just go overseas for 4 years, either the Navy, the Army, the Navy, the Air Force, anyone, and then when you come back, you'll be able to afford it. So now that's why we don't even have to ask, where are our troops coming from? I mean, do you know that our president, Obama, said our troops were all going to be coming home in 2013? And then he said, no, 2014. And now he's pushing it out to 2016.
Well, I want to interject this. I heard this on the news this morning, and Obama, I wonder, I don't know if he spoke or someone else spoke. When Obama said that, he was working with John McCain, a Republican, and they were agreed that we have to bring the troops home. And then McCain backpedaled on that and said, well, we needed a plan on how we're going to close Guantanamo Bay. And so there was a political problem within that. So I'm not blaming Obama. I'm blaming the original problem here was because why did we have let's go back a minute, Dennis. Why do you think we had people in why do we have troops overseas? Let's ask that question first.
Wow. I think I can answer that question. 58% of our federal tax dollars goes to our troops overseas.
Right.
58, over half of our federal. Just think, if we brought all our troops home the way we were told.
But hold on. Well, no. Hold on. I want to ask you. I want to ask you why. Why are we spending 58% of our energy, of our labor that we put into tax money? Why do we have people overseas? What's the reason for it?
There's something over there under the ground. It's called oil. It's under the ground over there. That's why all this is happening in the Middle East, whether it's Afghanistan, Iraq, Iran. Oh, go ahead.
But there's all kind. So you're saying I want to clarify this. You're saying we're putting troops overseas in the Middle East mainly to get control of their stuff below the ground, extractive industries, and we have coal here, and we have coal here, and we have things here. So why don't we use that instead of the stuff? And we have renewable energy. So why are we putting people overseas? Why are we putting people overseas, armies overseas, to control the oil? But
you ever hear of the word greed?
Yeah, but isn't greed just? But Dennis, aren't you and I? Does that mean that you and I are not greedy because we want more?
Oh no, I don't mean that kind of greed.
Well,
I don't mean like a 3-year-old who's hungry.
Whoa! What kind? Well, you can't say that. You're being subjective in your word with greed. How do you measure greed? How do you measure it? If I want more than the person who has less than me, am I greedy? I have enough
food, shelter. You're not greedy. If you're a millionaire,
I want more than my basic basic needs met. I have my education, food, and shelter right in front of me. I want to go out for dinner. I want to go to my all-you-can-eat buffet today, and I want to get different kinds of foods. Well, someone who can't afford the $6 or $10 to go to the buffet, I would be considered greedy.
No, I don't agree with that, Jeff.
That's because
you go out, if you've got a job, yeah, go ahead.
That's because it's subjective.
You can afford it.
That's because, pardon me?
But if you're...
How about the person who can't afford? How about the person who can't afford? How about the person who can't afford to go to the all-you-can-eat buffet? Is he greedy?
No, that person can get a job, right?
No, they can't get a job. There's no jobs to have.
Well, then we probably should have at least our minimum basic needs of food and shelter and education.
And then if I want, now supposing they've got those basic needs met, no matter what, I want to go ahead and I want to fly and see the world. So I'm going to go on a boat or a plane, and I'm going to have someone take care of me and drive me around. And I want to enhance my mind because I'm curious about the rest of the world. Does that make me greedy?
If you go beyond a certain point, I would call it greedy.
Who's going to determine that?
I'm saying what you need. Food to keep you alive.
I got my needs met. My basic needs are met. My education, food, and shelter within 1 hour of my day's work, and I'm willing to work a little more, maybe 2 or 4 or 10 hours a day. And I became a doctor or a physicist or whatever, and I've got extra money coming in, and I want to go travel around the world. Am I greedy?
I won't call it greedy. I'm saying if you're a millionaire and you want to become a billionaire, and the way to do it is get that oil from under the ground over there and then come over here and sell it for $4 a gallon, that is greedy to me, because the people over there love democracy. They love freedom. And when we take a democratically elected leader out of there, like we did in Iran, we put the Shah of Iran in there, people are not happy. Over in Saudi Arabia, it is number 6 on the list of dictatorships in the whole world. They get most of their weapons from us. We get a good price on oil from Saudi Arabia.
Now hold on. I want to interject this. The reason why we had to give them weapons was so they can control their population, so we can get their stuff out of the ground to make more money. So you're saying greed is when you kill another person when you have more than you need. Is that what your determination of greed is?
That's a good definition.
Okay, and I'll agree with that. But I would say to you, the reason why we're doing that is not because of the individual, it's because of the economic system itself. Does that make any sense to you?
The economic system. Yes. Have you ever heard of something called a dysfunctional government that needs reform?
Yeah, but what controls
But
what controls the government? What controls the government?
That's it, money.
Okay, so
right,
the problem is, if it's money, it's economics. So the dysfunctional portion of the government is not so much the government, it's the economic system itself, which controls the world governments to kill other people, to make it so only a small portion of the population is controlling the money supply. And if they control the money supply, doesn't matter who makes the laws. I don't care if I run the money supply, if I'm controlling the musical chair game, if I'm controlling the game and I won't get out of my seat and everybody else is dying around me when they don't have a chair, I'm controlling the game. I don't care what rules you make, as long as I control the game. I'm controlling the money supply. Does that make sense to you?
Yes. Have you ever heard of that man who came over here from France in 1830? His name is Alexis de Tocqueville, and he wrote a book called Democracy in America.
Yeah.
And he said, this is a great, I love your Constitution. this is in the 1830s. He says, I love your Bill of Rights, but this is only going to last, this, what you call capitalism, is only going to last until the richest, the most powerful people can buy and pay for, government, politicians. I mean, even today, our mainstream media, you can get brainwashed when you turn on mainstream media. That's why I like doing this show. Yes.
That's why we have a dysfunctional government, because economics has bought our government, and it's making it serve itself. Economics is making government serve its needs, and its only need is to make profit. It isn't human needs. It's not serving human needs. It doesn't even consider that. It's not human. It's not got traits of humanity, though whenever people refer to economics, they make it sound like it's a person with the kind of words that are used. But it is controlling our government, and
Exactly.
as it also prophesied that would happen. Marx prophesied that would happen. Lots of people have foreshadowed this, in their thoughts and in their writings, and people that didn't even get published, as these individuals did. They knew this was coming, just because of the way that the capitalist economic system functions. And right now, that is the dominant system and has the least concern of any economic system for human needs.
Thanks, Susan. You're right.
Thank you, Senator.
Never quite enough.
Thank you all for listening. This has been Bud Bridges Programming. You're listening to World Quartet, and this is Renew the Earth. Thank you very much for listening, and thank you all. Come back again. Thank you. Tell your friends about HREM.org, Human Renewable Energy Measure. Thanks again.
Cars and farms and factories and trucks.
Life go down in price.
And we'll see you again.
Futures are at stake. And when it's gone, it won't come back, and we'll be out of luck. Oh, energy. It all comes down to energy. You wonder where the money's gone, but listen, you'll thought. It all comes down to energy.